We're going to go ahead and get started here shortly, but just remind everyone, I'm calling this knowing your value because I really feel like for many agents, your confidence comes from exactly that, knowing your value. I'll have some questions for Scott about his value proposition. And last week I talked about this. I want to reiterate, in my opinion, there's really three pillars to your value, and that is wisdom, which is your knowledge and experience and how you leverage that in your client's best interest; service, how you're going not just gold star service, but above and beyond with accessibility. Are you answering your phone? Are you listening? Are you solving their problems? And then emotional intelligence, talked about that. That's not just whether you have empathy for your client, but are you able to keep deals together when emotions are running high? Are you the calm in the storm? And Scott, we're going to go ahead and jump right in, and we'll get to value type questions and your personal value as we move forward here. But maybe just a little bit about how you got started in real estate. Why Highgarden?
Well, I truly got started in real estate by kind of a fluke. I have friends on the coast that had their real estate license, and they were selling land, and they were making a ton of money. And I wanted to get in on that. So I went and got my real estate license, and I started doing that with them. And it was going so well. And then the recession came. And so I didn't know what to do, but I had a real estate license. And a funny thing growing up is my mom, for some reason, has always told me I should be a real estate agent. Nobody in my family was a real estate agent. We don't really have friends that are real estate agents, but for some reason, she said that all along. So I had my license. The economy was going downhill. I didn't know what to do. I knew I was pretty good on the phone, and I learned of Highgarden from a friend that worked with you guys in Indianapolis. And I met with you guys. At that time, I didn't take the job because I found a local builder here that was going to pay a salary, and I was my wife and I were pregnant at the time, so I needed that. So I worked with them for about a year, and I saw the writing on the wall with that company, and I came back to you guys, and I begged and pleaded for a job. I had to call Brian Holly like 5 times. Finally returned my call, and I signed up. And really, why I wanted Highgarden at that time was the leads that they provided.
Well, if you call your leads 5 times, you probably have more success too. That definitely works out. I don't know. I must not have liked you the first time around. I'm not sure what happened there. So you started with us in fall of 09.
May of 2009.
Okay, May of 2009. So it's been close to 11 years. We're zeroing in on that. You and I were talking a little bit earlier today, and about how your business is really, and what it's looked like with us is kind of how we paint the picture of what's possible. And that is that our leads, our platform is really a rocket boost to getting someone's business up and running off the ground way more quickly than they could otherwise. So in your first year and a half or so, you had 35 sales with us. 18 of those were company leads, 17 were self-generated. Since then, you have moved over time farther away from really relying on company leads and more on your own generated business. But how did the leads in our system help you get going in the beginning? And then, like you and I were talking about a little bit earlier, what's it been like for the long-lasting effects of those relationships and clients that you got from the beginning?
Well, let me focus on the leads. They were the fuel that got me started. The 18 company leads were true company leads, and I'm willing to bet out of those 17 self-generated leads, 15 of those leads were referrals from the Highgarden leads that I closed. I didn't know anybody. I had no spear here in Charlotte because all the years I lived here in Charlotte, I traveled. I had a house here. I was here maybe 2 days a week. And the friends that I did have, they certainly weren't buying houses. So, I relied on the leads, and it helped me meet people and grow from there. And those leads have done so much for my business and continue to do so much. I just went back to basically the first handful of leads that I took with this company in 2009 and 2010, and can easily track where those leads have made me another $170,000 worth of income by referrals. I'm talking a company lead that I got that I've done 16 additional transactions from. I did sisters, brothers, boyfriends, divorces, kids, you name it. And I am still working a business from those leads today. I looked at my very first closed Highgarden lead. I am closing on a lead that came from, I'm giving him credit for the lead. He introduced me to Henry Thompson, helped Henry Thompson buy a house. Well, Henry Thompson, his daughter bought a house. Well, now his daughter's buying another house. And then I'm going to list Henry Thompson's house later this year. That all started from the one deal in 2009. A $50,000 lead has generated $25,000 in gross commission income. And I've got lots of those. I can just go through it. It's unbelievable. And when I calculate it up, I kick myself for not taking leads. Why I don't take leads now is because I don't want the agents that work with me, for me, to feel like I'm competing or I might have some sort of advantage to them. I wouldn't, but I want to make sure they don't feel that way. But I preach, the gospel. Take these leads; they're worth something. It's not just the immediate gratification. It can be very profitable for you.
Yeah. So, and you talked about being in management now. How long have you been in management with us versus just being an agent? And what's that transition been like? And as you're talking about imploring the agent sometimes to, hey, use these as rocket fuel the way I did. What's the challenge there sometimes? And what kind of success stories are you seeing from it as well?
So I've been in a management position with you guys, I'd probably say close to 7 years. Not taking leads has been a bit of a challenge, but I've been able to transition that. Talking to new agents, the biggest struggle is they take 10 phone calls, and because someone isn't ready to buy a house, they kind of give up. And I've been looking for ways to motivate them, and by showing them in writing what these leads have done for me, I'm hoping to encourage them to take more leads. I'm trying to demonstrate it. I've said it. Every Charlotte agent has heard me say the value of these leads, at least 3 times a year in front of a sales meeting. But I'm really trying to make sure I pressure or push that into the heads of these newer agents, because they are very valuable.
So with your business, you've done 11 million in closed volume in the last 12 months. What are you focusing on right now within your business? What's focus for you focusing on setting appointments? Are you focusing on the particular kind of marketing? Where is it at right now?
So it's an interesting time, of course, everybody, with this pandemic. So I'm focusing on rebuilding my pipeline. The 12 or 14 deals that I was pretty confident that I was going to work over the next 3 or 4 months, that's dwindled drastically. So I'm kind of scrambling. I'm doing a lot more phone time. I'm doing a lot more emailing. Trying to do CMAs, send out home values to people, or when I'm calling them, I'm talking about it. So I'm kind of in a recovery mode right now, because I was really positioned to have an outstanding year, and I've lost some traction. So right now I'm kind of refocusing on getting that built back up.
And of course, that's common for so many agents across the country with us. What advice do you have for that reignition? That's the word I've been talking about here lately with some people, is to get reignited. What words of wisdom do you have?
Marry an expensive wife. That's the thing. No, hustle. I have income goals. I'm a goal-oriented person. I constantly move my goals throughout the year. And for me, it's about hustling. I have a hard time understanding why I talk to an agent that, maybe they live in South Charlotte, but they don't want to go to Concord for a showing because it's a 30-minute drive. I can't quite get my head around that. And so for me, it's just about, getting out and doing it. It's like losing weight. If you want to do it, you can't just talk about it. You got to get in the gym.
It's true. So how much are you focusing on buyers versus sellers right now?
So
and what do you prefer?
So right now I'm focusing on both. I am doing a lot more work before my calls to some of my old clients to really come up with a value for their home to show them what they could potentially sell for. I usually, I haven't done that in the past, but I'm doing that a lot more. As far as preference, I like buyers, I like sellers, but I really like realistic and motivated clients. That's what I like. I've got bad buyers and I've got bad sellers. They're different animals. Sellers are cats. They might love on you in 1 minute and scratch your eye out the next minute. And buyers are like dogs. They're loyal and nice, but then some, get off the leash and run all over the place. So I don't really have a preference.
Before, by the way, this is a new one for me. I like it.
Okay, good. I like clients that are realistic and motivated. That's whether you're buying or selling, I don't care.
And how with regard to the motivation, obviously the pandemic is putting a crimp into certain things for certain people. Last I saw, hey, I want to say hi to Damien jumping in there with Kathy. Sellers, I saw 55% of sellers were sitting out right now because of the pandemic and 45% of buyers. Are you having a bigger challenge with sellers or buyers right now and getting them motivated?
I'm having a bigger challenge with sellers. I'm having a lot of buyers come out to me. Unfortunately, they're on the lower price point, which is just very challenging. There's just not much inventory. A $200,000 lead used to be very exciting. And now a $200,000 lead is like, man, how am I going to get this done?
Right.
But, I've got them. I've got good people, motivated people, pretty realistic people that want a house. I'm going to go help them. And if that means I've got to show them, 10 houses and write 5 offers and 4 of them get rejected until I get it, that's what I'm going to do. And you know what? They're going to remember that. And they're going to give me referrals. They're going to remember that when it's time to sell their house. Basically it just gives me more time to build a relationship with these people. It's not the most fun, but
Right.
I look at it in a positive light.
What's working for you to get your offer accepted in multiple offer situations?
Increasing due diligence, no closing cost, a couple of the things that I do that we've put out there to everybody is, I try to call the listing agent beforehand. I do, I'm pretty deliberate in things I do, but, I'll do my feedback, before I put in an offer. I'll call the agent, talk to them. I'll do my feedback so the seller sees it, and I'll give props to the listing agent. Say something like, hey, house showed very nicely. I think my clients want to make an offer. I want to give the list agent kudos. This property looked great. I see it everywhere. Great job marketing. The agents seem to love that. When I call again, they always are, hey, thanks for saying that. That really helped. And then that kind of gets them on my side right there. But it's
realtors like to have their ego stroked.
Yeah. And writing good, clean, complete offers. Everything. They're not asking me for anything. I'm putting it all there, one email to make it easy on them.
You said the due diligence deposit. That's not something that's everywhere across the whole country. Maybe explain a little bit real quickly what that is.
Okay. So in North Carolina, we have 2 sums of money that we negotiate on a contract besides price. It's a due diligence fee and an earnest money deposit. The due diligence fee is an amount of money that we pay the seller to take their house off the market for a period of time. During that time, that's when we do all our inspections, get our financing taken care of. During the due diligence period, we can walk away for any reason whatsoever, and we only lose the due diligence fee. After that due diligence period expires, then if we walk away, we lose our due diligence fee and our earnest money deposit. Typically in our market, the combination of your due diligence fee and your earnest money deposit is somewhere around 1%. We, of course, representing a buyer, we want to keep that due diligence fee as low as possible. As a seller, we want as much due diligence fee as we can get. Homes that have been on the market for a short period of time, they're commanding much higher due diligence fees. If they're going to take it off the market for you, they want to make sure you're serious. An example is, I bet if we pulled out contracts from 5 years ago, a $250,000 house might have a $300 due diligence fee, maybe $500. Well, today, you write an offer on a $200,000 house, you better put a $1,000 due diligence fee on it. It's definitely changed a lot. And then really, due diligence has been around for about 7 or 8 years. And when it first started, we were getting away with, $100 due diligence fees, but we're seeing it creep up.
With your personal value, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about that. So, really the straightforward one is why you? Why use you? Why Scott Reed? Why Scott Reed instead of the agent next door? What would your buyers or sellers miss if they didn't have you on their side?
Besides my experience and knowledge that I've gained with, 400 and some real estate transactions, my level of service, everybody says that and everybody does things a little bit different, but, I pride myself on communication, on transparency. I get my clients involved as much as they want or as little as they want. I often tell them I will run your transaction the way I would do it for myself. But I think it's just a level of service and professionalism that, besides my experience and knowledge, that helps me.
How are you using market knowledge? Is there a part of Charlotte that you've kind of over time become more of an expert in than another? And are you micro farming it or, anything like that? Or
no, I have taken a different, a shotgun approach. As I was getting started, I'd go anywhere, and I'd learn on the fly. And because of that, doing it for 10 years, I've done enough business in Charlotte, the communities around Charlotte, that I'm very comfortable in it. And then I also know how to use our tools to quickly get up to speed. I can become very knowledgeable very quick on the numbers, days on market, sales price to list price. So I can, if I'm not 100% on top of it, I can fake it until I get it, until
I talked about emotional intelligence when I was talking about your value. And so you're a pretty cool, calm guy. How are you, what's some strategies or how you're offering advice to your folks about staying calm when stuff's falling apart?
Yeah. So, you know what, the thing that I've focused on, and it's helped me, when I kind of realized, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing for a career. And I have my confidence is I've become way more deliberate in what I do. Talking about buyers, I have a process of that I want to take every buyer through in just general conversation. For example, I get a referral. I want to go show those people a house right away. I want to meet them. I want them to see me. I want to talk. On that first meeting, I want to talk about due diligence and earnest money deposits. That's one of the first things I go over. Then as we go through homes, I make it a point to start pointing out things that are going to be on home inspections. I'm starting to talk about that. Later down the road, we have a conversation, not like a formal sit down conversation about writing an offer and what that looks like, but just in passing, giving them enough information to understand it, to be able to visualize it. Once we do write the offer and we do get the contract accepted, I send them copies of home inspections on similar homes that I've had done. Most people have never seen a home inspection. They have no idea what to expect. And they get an email.
That's great. That's great.
7 pages of crap. They don't know what this is. They get scared.
Yeah.
But send them those inspection reports of similar properties beforehand. And trust me, I pick out the rougher inspections to send them. They're not surprised. They're not caught off guard. They know what's coming to them. That has helped me so much. Just keeping things calm. And then as we go through the transaction, when we talk about things, I try to simplify it through words. We've done this so much. It's a pretty easy transaction to us. Just about anything can be fixed. There's no real big surprises for me anymore. So I think having that confidence, I'm able to pass that on to my folks. So they're not as fearful. They're a little more calm.
I mean, hopefully everyone takes that away from this. That was a great tactic that is real world actionable advice. What about with sellers? How are you setting expectations with them as it relates to price reduction, the inspection process? What you just said, sharing that, that was the example, but price reduction and the other type of stuff that I think expectation setting with sellers is so critical.
Yeah, it is. I think the setting the correct price is the most critical, right? Listing it at the right price to begin with. And sometimes I've had to have multiple conversations, and I use the data that we have at our fingertips in the MLS, and then I ask them to show me their data. They tell me, well, the house down the street sold for this amount. Well, I can go pull that up and I can show them the difference. I'm not combative in doing this, but I'm just showing why I'm feeling this is different. I'm doing detailed CMAs with adjustments, just like an appraiser would do. And if they ask me where I come up with those adjustments, I pull out old appraisals. I have in there probably 20 appraisals showing adjustments. I've studied those, so I understand how that works. So I can do a CMA and mirror what the appraisal is going to be. So setting the right price is key. The price reduction conversation, I'd like to meet someone that says they like to have that conversation. It's never fun. But if you can take in the data that supports it, you're not coming from a position of emotion or I think this works. You've got data backing you up, and we have great reports through our showing service that can show, hey, the average number of showings, just all types of information, and then you can merge that with MLS data to show, hey, these houses are probably getting 10 showings and getting an offer. We're at 25 showings and we don't have an offer. All our feedback is talking about how great the house is, but they're just not. They're not pulling the trigger. They're not seeing value in it. We can control price and condition, and price overcomes all objections. And
how often are you talking about that up front, a pricing strategy?
It comes up. I mean, if they price at my price, we're not having the conversation. If I go to their price, then we're having the conversation. And a lot of some of the sellers say, yeah, if we haven't had an offer in 2 weeks, we'll talk about a price reduction. And I basically say, hey, if we haven't had an offer after 10 showings, let's talk about it. But if you list at my price, we're not having it. I'm not having those conversations.
Well, let's take a quick break here to see if anyone has any questions in the audience. If you do, just unmute yourself and jump on in, or you can certainly send something in the text. Anybody have any questions for Scott?
I do.
Kelly, go ahead.
Hey, Scott, thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
I'm curious on how you're keeping in touch with the clients once they've closed and to get the referrals. How are you doing that? It's awesome that you're getting referrals from your Highgarden leads and becoming and obviously they're self-generated leads at that point. What are you doing to stay in touch?
So most of my contacts are through phone calls. and emails on clients that I have a closer relationship with them. If I feel like I can just shoot them a quick email saying, "Hey, what's up? What's going on? How you been?" So I try to transition out of the real estate agent to their friend. I've just gone through something big in their life with them. I know the kids. I know why they bought the house. I know where they're going to put the swing set. I know these folks. So I just kind of build off of that.
All about the
Any other
relationship.
questions out there? We'll come back and save your questions if you do. Scott, how about being the BIC? How about being the broker in charge and a manager? How's that made you a better agent?
How has it made me a better agent? Well, it's given me more exposure to more problems, and it's, made me find solutions to problems that weren't mine, which I kind of like, okay, I'd rather it be them than me, but it's I think it's helped me be a little more compassionate. It's helped me see, when I'm working with an agent and, I'm going through their offer and I'm just seeing these things that, we need to do differently. And then it makes me think about what I could do differently. The advice that I'm giving them, am I truly following it? So just exposure to a bunch of different personalities and styles. It's just helped me become more well-rounded.
Okay. What's something that you wish the agents as a whole would improve upon or do better?
Man, I got a list of that.
Okay. Lay it on us.
Well,
everybody get their pens and pencils. Let's write
yeah.
this stuff.
Well, there's some just really simple things. And I don't want to be petty, but email signatures with your phone number. Golly, I don't know why people don't have that.
That's a good one.
I really cringe when I send it. An agent emails me a question, I send them an answer, and I get a response from them 2 days later, and they say, "Hey, I'm just checking my email now."
Right.
Well, what have you been doing? Yeah, just things like that, just general professionalism. And then, for here in Charlotte, I wish they would take more leads. I wish we work harder and together to be better on the phone, to self-evaluate when they get off the call and say, what went good, what went bad. I talk to these agents that they come to me with a question about a lead, and I'm like, well, why are they moving? I don't know. What's their time frame? I'm not sure. Those are just things that we can't miss the opportunity to get that, because without that information, I find it very hard to, come up with a strategy to work the lead. So just being more professional overall.
On the idea of not having your phone number in your email signature, I have a huge pet peeve, and I know we have a few people in our organization that fall under this unfortunate category, but I can't think of one good reason not to have your voicemail greeting set up with your name and Highgarden or EasyStreet and identifying who you are. You're a real estate professional. I don't want to hear the number you have reached, 317 or 704, whatever it is. Come on. Be a professional, have your greeting on point. That being said, let's transition into a good story here. Tell us about, and I asked Mike Highgarden the same two questions last week, but what was the best experience you ever had with the co-brokering agent? And why? What made it so great? Why were they special?
I see Lori's comment.
I didn't see it.
Lori, that wasn't directed at you.
Get your act together, Lori. Come on, we got to have professionals.
So I've been fortunate. I've worked with a lot of really, really good agents, and I've worked with some bad ones. But I'll tell you, I just want to give a quick story about something that's happened to me, and it's been one of the best broker experiences that I've had. I had a listing in South Carolina a few months ago, and it was a good listing. And I didn't know it was going to get the type of activity it did, but I put it active, and within the first 8 hours, I believe I had 6 offers. And I got, out of those 6 offers, I had one agent that called me before they wrote the offer and said, "Hey, what's important to your seller?" They sent an offer over that was complete, well written. The dates made sense. I mean, everything. It was perfect.
Made your job easy.
Made it easy. The other offers, they were missing pre-approval letters. They were missing just parts of the contract. Just none of them were complete. I mean, and some were pretty ridiculous. But what really just made me so happy is that offer that came to us was by one of our agents, Shelly Phillips. So if I had all of our agents putting offers like that, I would be one proud broker in charge.
What about on the flip side? Tell us about an experience you had with an agent on the other side of the transaction that you wish you never had.
Well, I've definitely had some challenging transactions. Hold on one second.
Sure.
I've had some challenging transactions, and basically dealing with agents that want to make everything combative. I actually had, I'm not one that loses my cool much, but I had an agent that pushed me over the edge. And at closing, I basically said, "If you ever see my name on a sign, don't show the house."
How so? What happened?
They made everything a bigger deal than what it was. They just questioned everything on the inspection report. They wanted us to provide all the documentation and do their due diligence. It was just a challenge on everything. I mean, they just made us jump through hoops. I had to go through this was several years ago, but I had to go through the county to get something about the footage of a site triangle on the property. They hadn't had it surveyed, but they believed that it was wrong, and they wanted this documentation. Just making me jump through just crazy hoops to try to keep the deal together. And they just weren't a very nice person. They just weren't. I just felt like we were being attacked the entire time, and so that was very unpleasant.
Some people have never figured out the secret of working together and collaborating. We're all, if we can work together on the same page, I mean, life is.
We all ultimately want the same thing.
Exactly. How about with the industry in general? How do you think this, if you're looking into your crystal ball, and I know it's tough with COVID and everything else, but what do you see the future looking like over the next few years? How's it going to evolve in your opinion? And what should us as practitioners be prepared for or sharpen our skill set to best take advantage of what's coming?
So that's a really tough question for me to answer, because some days I wake up and I'm very optimistic about the future, and other days I wake up and I'm like, oh, man, am I going to be able to do this until I retire, or am I going to have a second career in life? I think technology advancements, artificial intelligence, I think those are some things that are going to have big impacts on our business. I think as an industry, I think the National Association of Realtors has to do a better job, making us professionals. I personally feel that it's the barrier to entry in our industry is too low. There's a lot of money involved in our industry, and that's why we're having so much outside pressure from these companies trying to come in. Our army of agents, is weak. So we're opening ourselves up to be attacked. And I think if we had harder licensing requirements, we had more continuing education, we had higher fees, I think we'd be better off. I think if we could weed out a lot of the agents that are doing this part-time for a year or two, they come in, they mess up a couple deals. Well, those people, those clients now don't trust real estate agents, and we've got to clean that up. I think, if it's very similar to like the financial services industry, what they went through with, stockbrokers and online trading, and they did a pretty good job of putting the value back into their wealth advisors, and they became true advisors.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd really like to see some stuff like that, but for now, I'm going to be optimistic and focus locally on a lot of good people that want to buy and sell houses and take advantage of it while I can. And, adapt, this has been constantly adapting. I've got to get better at this. I've got to be more willing to do this. And that's all we can do, evolve to survive.
How do you want your personal business to look in the next couple, 3 years?
I want to continue to see, my volume go up. I want to work on having some help. I'm a hands-on guy. I'm not a control freak, but I'm a hands-on guy. I like things done a certain way. And, I haven't had a lot of luck using transaction coordinators. But I would like to find some sort of an assistant type position that can step in when it's needed to take a little bit of the burden off me. I don't mind working 40 hours a week. I worked in corporate America before. We got it made, guys. It's not that hard. And so, I look forward to finding some ways to help me or help my systems improve.
Let's see if we have any more questions out there. Anyone have questions for Scott? Chat them or unmute yourself. Please jump in. Great opportunity, guys. Scott, obviously, I've asked all the perfect questions.
I'm not that interesting.
No, that's definitely not the case. So, okay, last week we started this. It's a new tradition that we're going to have at the end of these, and that's kind of like the James Lipton Inside the Actor Studio questionnaire. Alan Alda does something on his podcast called Clear and Vivid that's similar. 7 questions, Scott. Number 1, what's a proud moment from your childhood?
So I'm a fairly simple person. Came from a simple family. My grandparents were very big in my life, and they were veterans of World War II, and didn't have a chance to finish their education. So simply getting out of high school, graduating high school, was a very proud moment because it made them so proud. And the same thing with college. So I was proud because they were. But those are probably the proudest moments. Walking across the stage and my grandparents being there was pretty cool.
That's awesome. What's an embarrassing moment that is now funny to you?
I've got a list of these, but I'm going to go with a clean, professional version. In my corporate work life before real estate, I worked for a wholesale distributor, and we had this once a year annual banquet where all the sales agents and employees came, and I managed a part of this company, their store operations, and the other part was outside sales agents. And we had the big banquet and dinner, and people were dressed nice, and we had been planning this, and I'd been in the planning meetings of how the presentation was going to go. I had my 5-sentence speech I was going to give and recognize a couple of the people that worked for me real quick. And I thought I was doing that after the main celebration where all the top agents performed and they gave away this really nice trip. So during all this banquet, it's hustle and bustle, and I'm not paying that much attention. I'm outside the banquet room. I hear everybody cheering and clapping and all that. I thought that the announcement had been made who won the award. It had. So I went in to start my presentation. Hey everybody, hey, congratulations to this year's winner. And I heard gasps and laughs and clapping, and I didn't know what happened. I just instantly got red face and started to just sweat. And it seemed like 10 minutes. I just kind of stood there, and then I was, corrected on stage and made aware that I had just goofed, and everybody was laughing and funny. But it certainly was quite embarrassing, and I heard about that for
forever.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3, how do you stop a compulsive talker?
Hey, look, Steve, I got to take this call. This is really important. Can I call you back later?
That works.
Tactics like that. When I'm on the phone with someone, sometimes I say, hey, listen, I've pulled up to my next appointment, or my appointment's pulling up. I hate to be, deceitful, but oftentimes people can relate to that. Hey, he's got to get back to work. They know I
Right.
work on a calendar. They know I have a schedule, and when I give them that, it usually works pretty well.
What do you wish you really understood?
Raising a daughter. I wish I understood, what causes fear in myself. Wish I could think how to beat that. Because there's times that I don't want to do something because truly I'm scared, I'm fearful, calling for sale by owner, stuff like that. So I wish I could overcome that a little bit.
You did 11 million in the last 12 months, buddy. You've overcome a couple things.
Well, thank you.
If everyone could overcome it, at the same level, you're doing all right. How do you like to deliver bad news?
Quickly, truthfully, compassionately, and then I like to have some, if I can, reassurance. If we don't get an offer accepted, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to say, hey, we didn't get it. Let's move on to the next one. I'm not scared to give bad news. But I just don't hide it. I remember starting in this industry, and I'd get an inspection report back, and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to share this. What do? I was just so scared to do it. Now I'm just not. We're going to work through it. We're going to figure it out. We'll find something better, find something equivalent. We're going to be okay. So I just like.
You really hit on something. You really hit on something there with you're talking about overcoming your fear, but so often I think one of the biggest traps that agents get into that cause their most problems for their business getting off the ground is their inability to overcome their fear of delivering bad news. And so they're continually trying to mitigate the truth and the reality of the situation. And instead of just coming out right to the point, being short, sweet, and professional about, here, guys, here's the situation. We talked about this could happen. Now here's what we're going to do. Man, that right there.
Get right to it.
Get right to it. Who's your favorite movie or television character?
This is a tough question. I'm not a huge television or movie guy, but I do like a famous chef, Bobby Flay.
Mm-hmm.
He's just very confident. Food is my hobby. I like to cook. I just like that guy.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, last thing. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates? That's straight from James Lipton's question.
I'd like him to say, welcome, child, but I could see him saying something like, it came down to a coin toss, just barely, something like that, or maybe even just kidding, wrong place, wrong Scott. But no, truthfully, I hope I'm welcomed as one of his children.
No question in my mind, Scott. This has been fantastic. I'm not sure who we have next week or the next one of these, but man, they've got a lot to live up to with you and Mike, and can't thank you enough for everything here today, Scott. And thank you enough for everything you're doing for our company and Charlotte and those people, Brandon, and all the agents you work with. Are very lucky to have you, man.
And thank you, Steve. It's my pleasure. And yeah, I know that we've got great agents across the nation, but we've got some really good folks here in Charlotte that it's a real pleasure to work with and work for. And I'm very proud to be a part of this team.
Thanks for being on, man. Talk to you
Hey,
soon.
is it okay to ask a question?
Yeah, jump in. Go ahead.
Hi, Scott's Chip in Las Vegas, and I wanted to ask real quick. You brought up a really good question, a really good point about when you get that inspection back and there's a bunch of stuff on it. The first question is, how many things are you telling people to expect are going to be on that before it shows up? And then second of all, when it's more, what's your threshold for let's start over? Because you mentioned that in your answer about whether we got to go out and find you another one. What is the threshold by which you say, look, this came back really bad, let's go find another house, versus we can work through this, versus this is normal?
Well, I never say, let's go find another house until I see what the sellers are willing to do. I've seen some sellers overcome some really big issues, things that I thought would be a deal killer that's ended up working out great for the buyer. A big crawl space issue here in North Carolina. We have a lot of houses on crawl space, and moisture issues are common. People are scared to death of them, and a buyer might say, "Oh my gosh, I can't deal with this." But if we give the seller time to respond, we might come out with a fully encapsulated top of the line crawl space and won't have any problems. So until I go to the seller, I don't ever say let's pull the plug, or I can't think of many situations where I have. As far as telling them what to expect on the home inspection, while we're in the house, I'm trying to see things that are going to be on the home inspection. I'm trying to look for water stains. I'm trying to point these things out beforehand. I don't tell them what to expect as far as, this should be a good home inspection or not, because I've been wrong. I have been wrong on that. So I really kind of, I think sending the old home inspections, I think really is setting the bar for me. Like I said, I don't send super clean examples. If somebody's buying a house built in 1975, a ranch, I try to find 2 or 3 ranch style homes, something comparable in product, and send those inspection reports so they'll get a good idea what to expect, and hopefully it comes back cleaner.
Hey, Ryan Benroth, I see you there. You got a question for Scott. Jump on in. He's looking for the unmute.
How'd you know that? Just some examples of maybe some outside the box things you do to keep in touch and are in front of past clients other than CMA.
So again, there's a couple of things I do. I have split my clients up. I've got my cheerleaders, and those are my friends. Those are the ones that I just want to see what's going on. Then I have my clients that I'm not scared of, that were nice. Those are the less frequent phone calls, but it's just call to check in.
It's phone calls. Okay.
Just phone calls, texts, and emails. I'm not sending postcards, anniversary cards. I could do a better job of that, but I'm mixing it up. I mean, if let's say I've emailed, there's a girl specifically that I want to call today or tomorrow. Her name's Melissa Carey. We had a good transaction. I've sent her 2 emails since the pandemic hit. I haven't heard from her. I know we're on good terms. So now I haven't heard from her, so I'm going to call her. If she would have responded to my email, she's checked off. I'm pushing it down the road. But it's really not anything a system. It's just taking advantage of time. I make a lot of calls in the car. If I've got a 25-minute drive to my next appointment, I can touch base with 2 people. And these calls, they're about, I talked to Paul Irvin, yesterday about his dog, for 20 minutes, but I know Paul will give me a deal. I know I'll get another deal from him. But yeah, I split them out. My cheerleaders, those are the people that I'm in regular contact with. Then my regular clients that I feel very comfortable calling. And then I'll tell you, I do have a bucket of clients that I don't want to call. Either I don't ever want to see again. It was a tough transaction. I thought they ended up being, unfair or whatever. Or they just weren't very pleasant. So I had a pool of those in this weird story. I went back through that pool to make sure I wasn't, missing anybody. There was one guy that kind of fell that, it wasn't a bad transaction. He just wasn't a very happy guy. Well, I called him back and I just listed his house and sold it and helped him buy another house, and that's somebody I hadn't talked to in 5 years. So
Wow.
that was $700,000 worth of transactions just from that. So that's my approach. Nothing magic, nothing special. No, I can't email you an outline of it. It's just dialing, being, taking the time to stay in touch.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got Chris Hitchcock has one for you. Chris, jump on in.
This better be nice, Chris.
He had to send it via carrier pigeon.
Right. Let's see.
Oh, I thought he was
What's
going
some
to jump.
advice? Chris asked, what's some advice you get? Yeah. No, I told him he's not allowed to talk.
Okay.
What's the advice? Take leads, take leads, take leads, take leads, take leads. That's my advice. Work the leads, make the calls. You don't have anything else to do. Why not? You're only going to get better. Self-evaluate after each call. What went good? What went bad? What information did I get? What information did should I have gotten? That's the whole deal. And when you are not afraid of the phone, man, this job gets a whole lot easier.
Man, you said it. Anybody else?
I just want everyone to know with Scott that you guys can all see just by having him on here for an hour today. He's got a great outgoing personality. People love him. Clients rave about him. Everything else. Scott could have been a good agent and not done really much. He could have taken leads, moved on, made a solid living, and been a good agent. But you've heard today all the stuff he goes above and beyond and does for his clients. And that's why he's a great agent and not just a good one. So, Scott, you know how much we appreciate you and what you've done for the Charlotte market. And I know your agents all appreciate you. I don't think I've ever had a negative comment about you in the however many years, even though you made a negative comment about me and said I didn't tell you until your 5th phone call, which I don't remember, by the way, but thank you for all you do. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate you doing this today.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, and it's been my pleasure, and I look forward to another 10 years. I thought the Rolex came on the 10-year anniversary, but apparently it's the 20.
Got a nice Casio.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of a Swatch watch. Yeah, thanks.
That's right. We will get we were asked about this recording being available, probably be available tomorrow. We will get it out to you, but I hope everyone enjoyed this as much as I did. Scott, thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great day.
You too. Thanks, guys.